Great British Manufacturing Podcast, brought to you by MTD, MFG and Jefferson.
Hello and welcome to the Great British Manufacturing Podcast. On this week's podcast, we will discuss the positive British manufacturing news from the last 7 days and welcome a special guest, who is Sarah Blacksmith, the Head of Factory Operations at Siemens. Stuart, welcome to the podcast. How are we doing?
Yeah, very good, Joe. Some fascinating stories this week and a great guest, so looking forward to it.
Indeed. The first one, the Royal Mint, set to open a new facility. Nice story, this one.
Certainly is. They've announced plans to build a world-first plant in South Wales to recover gold from UK electronic waste. The Royal Mint is using patented new chemistry created by Canadian firm Exa to recover gold within circuit boards of laptops and mobile phones. Unique chemistry is capable of recovering over 99% of the precious metals contained within electronic waste, selectively targeting the metal in seconds. Construction of the plant begins this month, and when fully operational in 2023, up to 90 tonnes of UK-sourced circuit boards will be processed each week, generating hundreds of kilograms of gold per year.
And we know we need this, don't we? With all the technology, all the things that keep appearing in our houses, the Alexas, and obviously all the iPads and things. So this is exciting.
Certainly is. Looking forward to following that story.
Yeah, and the next one, Alstom have launched a major recruitment drive.
Yeah, the train builder and on-site supplier Motherson are ramping up production and creating 200 new jobs in Derby. Opportunities available for mechanical and electrical fitters as the firms increase their respective workforces to fulfil a very healthy rolling stock order book. And as we covered in last December, Alstom and joint venture partner Hitachi were awarded a £2 billion contract to design and build HS2's new fleet of high-speed trains in Britain. So good news for these Midlands.
Absolutely. The new one, good news for the UK steel industry. There's often a negative narrative towards steel makers here in the UK, isn't there? But some good news.
Yeah, and this story went under the radar a little bit. The US has agreed to ease tariffs on UK steel and aluminium shipments, resolving an issue that has strained relations between the allies. The move follows earlier deals with the European Union and Japan over the controversial taxes which were imposed by former President Donald Trump in 2018 in the name of national security. In exchange, the UK will suspend extra taxes it put on US products such as bourbon and Levi jeans. Under this new agreement, the US will replace the 25% tariffs on steel with a quota system. The policy will let UK metal imports into the country duty-free up to a certain level before taxes kick in, and this deal will go into effect on June the 1st.
Could be massive, couldn't it? Absolutely, could be massive. The SMMT, they've published a new report. What's in this one?
Yeah, this is new analysis from the automotive trade body, revealing that manufacturers have invested almost £11 billion in electric vehicle and battery research, development and production across the UK since 2011. Investments include Lotus, Arrival, Britishvolt, Polestar, LEVC, Aston Martin, the list goes on. More than 150 models of plug-in cars and vans are now on sale in the UK, while British factories have produced 250,000 electric cars, vans, buses and trucks in the last decade. So lots of investment, lots gone on, and I'm sure we'll be covering more investment stories in the electric vehicle market in the next few months as well.
Yeah, we all know what's happening in that space, don't we? So no doubt there's going to be more to report shortly. Stuart, we'll take a brief pause from this week's positive UK manufacturing news and introduce this week's guest, who is no other than Sarah Blacksmith, the Head of Operations at Siemens. Sarah, thanks for joining us.
No, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you both.
Good stuff. Well, to start with, let's learn a little bit about you, if we can, Sarah. What's your career to date and your current role and responsibilities at Siemens?
Yeah, so I've been with Siemens for 20 years this year, actually, coming up for my anniversary in June time. 10 of those years I spent in Lincoln, which is where the Siemens Energy business is, in a variety of manufacturing production roles and also business improvement in positions. And then I moved over to digital industries, where we've got a factory in Congleton, where we manufacture variable speed drives, so electronics manufacturing as opposed to gas turbines. So it was a bit of a change. And I was responsible when I first started there for production, looking after the production lines. and then moved on to having responsibility for the engineering teams, the maintenance, and the business improvement, as well as the production. So I'm a manufacturing person through and through, and my current title is head of factory operations. So again, yeah, looking after that the whole factory in Congleton.
Yeah, bit of a difference going from quite large components to small components, presumably.
Yeah, definitely different volumes as well. I think at that time, we were doing like 60 new engines a year, and then moving to Congleton, where we're building 2,700 units a day. So, bit of a change. So, but it was good. But similar principles apply in all manufacturing facilities. I guess safety, quality, cost, delivery, and people. So, yes, there's similar threads that you can still move over.
Absolutely. And now if we can have an overview of Siemens, if we concentrate on the UK and specifically Congleton, I suppose.
Yeah, okay. I mean, there's a lot of parts to Siemens, but I guess there's digital industries, which is the division that I'm in. So I'll go into Congleton in a moment. The smart infrastructure, so the buildings side of it. The Siemens Mobility, obviously with the trains. I think you guys have spoken in the past about the new Gould facility. That's a great story for UK manufacturing. And then there's a consulting side, so Siemens Advanta, and then there's Healthineers as well. But yeah, in terms of digital industries in the UK, and manufacturing, we've got our Congleton site where we manufacture variable speed drives. It's actually the oldest Siemens manufacturing site that's always been part of Siemens. So we were established in 1971, originally as like a switchboard manufacturer. And so, yeah, it was 50-year anniversary last year, which we didn't manage to get to celebrate for obvious reasons. So we're going to be having our celebration party later this year. So, which is fantastic, and we're really going from strength to strength in Congleton. We've had two new sort of portfolio products in the last sort of 4 years, and highly configured, so moving from make to stock to being very much make to order, so looking at exactly what our customers are after. And we've had to adapt to that and adapt our processes, our manufacturing execution system, and really go on this journey of digitalization and automation in the last sort of 4 to 5 years. So it's always busy, which is great.
Absolutely. Morning, Sarah. It's Stuart. Thanks for
Ah,
joining us.
yeah.
And hiya. There's happy birthday, happy anniversary to
Yeah.
you, and happy birthday to Siemens and Congleton. Lots to celebrate. We talking about celebrations. We recently celebrated International Women's Day.
Yes.
What do you think we can do to continue to encourage more females into manufacturing and engineering?
Yeah, so yeah, it has, and I actually think, and I know we've talked about this before, Stuart. It's good to celebrate this and talk about this all the time. So great question. I think it's on all of us to get involved and promote female engineering role models. So, for example, one that I'd like to promote right now, Ashley Lawton. So she's our first engineering team leader that just started in position a month ago in Congleton, and she started as a degree apprentice in the factory, and has worked her way up to this position, which is fantastic. And we've got about 3 or 4 other manufacturing engineers that are females. And I think part of that then is having those role models that inspire the school kids in our local area. So trying to change those perceptions of what engineering and what manufacturing are. So we're trying to, we do a lot of work with local schools in our area, things like the roller coaster challenge that Siemens runs. There's a robotics challenge as well. And we do things particularly around, Women in Science and Engineering Day, which is generally in June time. So I think all of that is fantastic. It's in terms of changing the perception of manufacturing for males and females, I guess, as well. I think it's great to give apprentices the grounding in manufacturing when they come into any manufacturing business or engineering business. So, all of our engineers do a stint in manufacturing, working as part of that team to understand our products and how our processes work, and sort of build their experience and their confidence, and realizing that it's something that they can do, and that there's great people there, and there's great processes and technology that they can get involved in. I think as well, it's like it's us supporting each other, but supporting and amplifying voices. Of a great example on LinkedIn is Angela Lawler, who set up the UK Manufacturing Women's Group. Philippa Glover from CNC Robotics is doing an absolutely amazing job of sharing all of the great stories and encouraging people to get into engineering and manufacturing roles. So yeah, I think they're some of the things that we can do and keep promoting promoting engineering and manufacturing to both males and females, but particularly trying to get more females involved and highlight some of the great places that there are in the UK that they could work at, and great technologies that everybody is starting to onboard in different companies. So yeah. And things like this is that's a great opportunity for us to discuss that and highlight, and hopefully people listening then start to think, oh, actually, yeah, I could work in that area. So yeah.
Absolutely, and certainly echo what you said about Angela and Philippa doing a fantastic job, and congratulations, well done to Ashley and your other female members there at
Brilliant.
Congleton. And talking about Siemens in Congleton, obviously you've been through an awful lot of change in recent years. Can you just please talk us through what you have done and what you are doing to become carbon neutral?
Yeah, so Siemens has got a target globally to be carbon neutral by 2030, and we're actually on track for that in Congleton to do that this year. So we've had an energy efficiency program that's been running for quite a number of years now, and that's focused on a few key areas. So first one would be energy efficiency within the factory. So anytime that we're onboarding new equipment, we're always looking at, right, what opportunities we've got to buy equipment that's going to reduce our energy usage. So for example, we coat all of our PCBs, and we've recently, a couple of years ago, bought UV ovens, which are 36%, like they use 36% less energy than the older ones. They've also got a smaller footprint. Whenever we're onboarding new technology, for example, in our surface mount lines, where we place the very small components, we're looking at, right, is there any opportunity to reduce the number of lines? So, by using the technology and the advancements in terms of the optimization of placements, do we then potentially not need an extra line that we then can reduce our energy usage through that way? And then there's the simple things as well. So part of this program was we have audits of like looking, checking for air leaks, and actually this program was realized, well, if we fix the air leaks at the same time that we find them, we're going to have a saving through that as well, and we're going to reduce, that problem straight away. So, that's something you'd be like, oh, isn't that obvious? But we weren't doing that at the time. LED lighting, we've introduced LED lighting throughout the factory. We've now, well, they were about 2 years delayed because of COVID, but we've got our EV chargers in place, which is great. Particularly as I now have a hybrid, so I was really keen to get plugged in. And yeah, what else have we got? In terms of, we've also installed a gas turbine, which uses biogas, and so that sort of gives us a backup in terms of any supply issues that we have, but it's also obviously green energy that we're using, and that we've paid for through the savings. Obviously, at the moment, that's a really hot topic in terms of, the cost of energy. So that has massively helped us getting that onboarded. Yeah, we've also a part of a hydro weir project, which is a community project in Congleton, whereby they're using they're taking the water. Obviously, we've got a weir drop about a mile up from the Congleton site on the River Dane, and they've actually installed an Archimedes screw, and they've connected, and that screw is then coupled to an electric generator and a control system, and the output of that we actually have coming to the Siemens site through a dedicated cable. So again, that's just another example of how we're working with the community in this case to look at green energy sources for our factory. So I think there's lots of things that the manufacturers can do, and yeah, there's a lot of knowledge out there in terms of people that you can go to, I think, to see what are the best practices, where's the expertise to help guide you in that journey. So yeah, so that's some of the things, but the community project's really interesting, and anytime that you guys want to come visit Congleton, that would be a great thing for you to come see as well.
No, absolutely. I'd love to, and certainly a great insight into your carbon neutral journey. And another journey you've been on, obviously, digital transformation. Could you
Yeah.
please talk us through that project you've been involved with at Siemens in Congleton?
Yeah, I think well, it probably started now, probably about like 2016 time, and our strategy for 2020 was all about getting closer to our customers and developing a new portfolio. Um, and part of that new portfolio was around this make to order that I mentioned earlier, and so one of the great levers for that strategy was we needed to look at our whole digital processes, because we really needed better control right the way through from our raw R&D data, which is stored in Teamcenter as a system we use, and delivering that right the way through to the shop floor direct, which wasn't the case, for our legacy products. So yeah, so that journey really started around taking people out of the day-to-day business, a small number of people, to look at the architecture, to look at what were we not doing. Um, and it was looking at the digital tools that we weren't using. So things like discrete event simulation, 3D layouts, using VR caves to actually engage shop floor teams and sell ideas to our stakeholders. So I think it was split in terms of looking at it from an architecture point of view, a manufacturing execution system and data, and then looking at in our case, obviously, the Siemens software suite of tools that would actually help us deliver productivity quicker to the factory, and also um, highlight opportunities for productivity as well. So I think taking those people out of the day-to-day business, as you guys are probably aware, when you're in operational roles, it's really challenging to put your head above the parapet sometimes and sort of see what are we not looking at, and that really gave us that step forward, I think, of taking those people out, and it was the start of that strategy and having a strategic theme around digital enterprise. And then the second part of that, the other part of that was around automation and robotics. But yeah, in terms of digital enterprise, it was getting the architecture right, understanding, how do we want that to look like, um, and yeah, from a productivity point of view, with all of the different softwares, how can we get productivity quicker, and how can we identify it more productivity, because we've been on a great journey of lean, continuous improvement, small steps. But actually, as that gets more challenging year on year, we want to understand what are the more step changes in opportunities for productivity, and these digital tools really sort of helped identify those. But I think one of the main things on that is something that my boss Andrew Peters always says is, don't digitize waste. So you need to be really clear on what it's a good process that you're working on first, that the data's good, so you're not building on something that isn't actually leaned, and because you don't obviously want a load of waste in a process and then to sort of digitize it. Um, so yeah, that's how we approached it, and I think I understand that would probably be challenging, like, or a lot of people listening might think, "Gosh, how did you do that?" And we're not a massive site, so even though we're part of Siemens, we're about 500 people, so we took 2 people out of the business day to day, restructured to enable this, because we felt it was really important for the future. So I think it's something for people to consider as a different way of looking at it if you get any opportunity to do that.
I like that. Don't digitize waste. It's a very,
Yes.
very good point. On a similar vein, I suppose, talk to us about the adoption of robotics and automation, if you've done anything differently there at Congleton.
Yeah, so one of the first steps that we did was engaged with, there was a government program at the time called the Advanced Manufacturing Supply Chain Initiative, so AMSCI for short. And that was working alongside the Manufacturing Technology Centre in Coventry, and engaging with a lot of our SME suppliers. whereby the government would give funds, and that then the companies would also put money in around the adoption of innovative new processes. So we were in this case looking at the automation of testing processes in our factory. So that was a sort of a first step into understanding how some of the government catapults could support UK businesses, which is there is massive support there. We've also since engaged with, and we're members of like the MTC, I think, and the AMRC in Sheffield. But that then gave us a first step into, we created our own automation team. We called it the Productivity Through Automation, or PTA. And that was where we pulled, we onboarded 2 new people with more expertise in robotics and automation than we had at the time. And then we also put in another 3 engineers from the different process engineering team, test engineering, and manufacturing engineering into that one group. And their focus was around looking for automation opportunities that would deliver productivity. And then part of that, then we created what we called this Robo Lab. So it was almost like a testing development lab for the PTA team, which then we put on the shop floor. It was in sort of a glassed off area because obviously it still needs to be, locked up and secure because there's a robot in there. We had a UR robot. And then that then was used as part of the town halls. So we brought people in so that the idea being it's not a secret. This is the way that we want to be moving to. This is where we want to investigate opportunities to ensure that we as a factory remain competitive. So that was a great sort of communication, way of keeping things really open. And then the first sort of project that we had was we engaged a system integrator, and we had a phased approach to automating a relatively simple assembly and testing process, and use some of the digital tools again to sort of model that in the digital world. And then, we phased approached it. So it's 2 cooker robots that we've got there. And that then has enabled us to get more learning so that the PTA team, can build on that. And we've since introduced a number of different robots, mainly UR, because they're smaller and in terms of the size that we need, they did the job. Of automating parts of processes that we've got mainly in our assembly areas. And that has been good. We've delivered a lot of productivity from those in the last 4 years. However, I think something that we've recognised now is it was quite pointed solutions. And what we're really looking at now is, looking more end to end and holistically at the processes to say, right, where can we, what's a better way or a different way of doing it in terms of, for example, automating our through-hole technology process. So yeah, that's the journey that we're on now, looking more at holistic processes rather than point solutions. But there is, again, a lot of help out there. The MTC and the AMRC, are great to go to for expertise, and they really, can support businesses in the UK a lot. So definitely one to go to.
Yeah, no, good advice. And if you were to give anyone else, more advice, what would you say to people who are just starting their digitalization and automation journey, whether a small SME or a larger business like Siemens?
I think, back to that point about, taking some people out of the day-to-day business just to give them time to think, how do we want this to look? What is the problem that we're trying to solve? How will this support our business and help deliver for our customers? I think one of the things that we learn is to keep the communication really simple. So our strategy for 2020 was quite complicated, and so when we're now on this strategy that we're on for 2023, it's a lot simpler. And I think we were learning as we went, and it was quite challenging to figure that out. So, but on reflection, it's keeping that communication to your teams also really simple. But giving people time to think and taking them out of the day-to-day business is key for me.
Are there any other people out there that can help you on this sort of journey, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've mentioned a couple there, but I probably want to add as well companies like Made Smarter and Be the Business. So, these are companies that can support SMEs and different manufacturers in the UK. I'd also say best practice sharing within the manufacturing community. If I take Siemens as an example, Siemens Manchester, has a wealth of experience that can support you on this journey, as has Congleton, as a manufacturing site that we can share our learnings. And I know there's lots of other people out there that are willing to share and pinch with pride in terms of best practice sharing. So those are just a couple of examples of people that you can go to help you on that journey.
Great advice, Sarah. Appreciate your time. And yet again, thank you for joining us on the podcast. We hope to see you again soon.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been fantastic.
Stuart, fascinating guest.
Absolutely. Learned so much during that interview. And, but, if you are in a similar position to Sarah, you're running a factory, you've been through a turnaround, you've been involved in projects such as Sarah has, please get in touch with us. We'd love you to feature on a future podcast.
Yeah, and if you do want to be on the podcast, find us on social media. We're not difficult to find, or email podcast@mtdmfg.com. Right, moving swiftly on with the news. Vestas is ramping up production in their UK facilities.
Yeah, the Danish-owned firm is set to start manufacturing longer 85-metre turbine blades for a European offshore wind project in the UK. The new production line at its Isle of Wight factory is expected to create dozens of jobs. The plant currently produces V164 blades, and they've delivered over 1,000 blades to North European markets, including more than £360 million worth of exports since 2014. Vestas has tested and manufactured wind turbine blades at the site for 20 years, producing over 10,000 blades, and currently employs more than 650 people. So an absolute success story.
BP is set to invest $1 billion in electric vehicle charge in the UK. This is obviously much needed, and I'm not surprised.
Absolutely. So this is BP Pulse, which is BP's EV charging business. Intends to make the investment over the next 10 years, helping to meet the UK's fast-growing demand for EV charging and support the country's transition to low-carbon transportation for both consumers and fleet vehicles. The company expects a huge investment to create hundreds of new jobs in the UK. And this is all part of the government's electric vehicle infrastructure strategy to support the UK market to reach 300,000 public electric charge points by 2030, which is equivalent to almost 5 times the number of fuel pumps on our roads today. So very good news from BP, and good luck to them and others investing in that infrastructure.
Yeah, and there's a new factory under construction in Kent this time.
Yeah, this is Irish-owned Jazz Pharmaceuticals. They've started building a new £75 million factory at Kent Science Park in Sittingbourne, due to open in 2024. The facility is designed to support the company's 2 approved cannabis-based medicines and support future capacity for new medicines and development. The huge investment is expected to create more than 100 jobs.
Yeah, and do you know what? Before the BP, I didn't think we were going to cover an electric story this week, but now we've got a second one. There's maybe another new Gigafactory could be built right here in the UK.
Yes, Jaguar Land Rover, Britain's biggest car maker, is reportedly in advanced talks with Envision AESC to supply batteries for its Range Rover and Land Rover electric models. The potential partnership is likely to lead to the construction of a new Gigafactory in the UK, which is JLR's preferred location. And as you know, Envision AESC is currently building a new £450 million battery manufacturing plant in Sunderland to supply Nissan. So, I'm sure we'll be coming back to this story as we get more details.
Indeed. And the last one this week, Factory Now member Venari. It's a nice story, this, building ambulances to aid the Ukraine.
Yeah, without doubt, this is my favourite story of the week. So, British emergency vehicle manufacturer Venari started building military-grade ambulances on a not-for-profit basis, which will be imminently deployed to Ukraine to support medics working on the front line. Ukraine is currently losing ambulances at an increasingly rapid rate of around 10 per day. The Ukrainian embassy in London contacted Venari's CEO, Oliver North, who's obviously been on the podcast a couple of times, just last week. And then overnight, Venari's production facilities in Gould and Brighouse were commandeered for the Ukrainian effort. So fantastic story, and congratulations to Venari and Oliver.
Yeah, I'm not surprised reading that. Oliver's a top guy, obviously with his background as well. That doesn't surprise me at all. So well done to Oliver and his team at Venari. But that brings the end to this week's news, I'm afraid, Stuart. We've run out of time, as we always seem to do. For more news, go to mtdmfg.com. We don't have time to cover all in the podcast. So yeah, if you want to join us, email podcast@mtdmfg.com. Stuart, thank you for coming on. A big thank you to Sarah Blacksmith of Siemens, today's guest. But as always, the biggest thank you goes to you at home for listening, and we'll see you next week.
To the Great British Manufacturing Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and a review. You can find us on Twitter using @MTDMFG and @Jefferson_MFG.